Welcome, everybody. Assalamu alaikum.
Salam, sir.
Trying to maneuver a few things here. I'm going to pull up the screen here shortly. A second here. A few moments, brothers. Can you all see the screen?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Thanks belongs to Almighty God, Allah, for He and He alone is giving us victory over our enemies. Our enemies did everything possible to keep you from me. They couldn't keep me from you. And I must say to you that I'm honored tonight beyond words to see my many Muslim brothers and sisters from every persuasion of Islam and my many Christian brothers and sisters from the various denominations of Christianity. So we have Christians and Muslims, nationalists, Pan-Africanists, socialists, communists, all under one mighty roof.
Praise is due to Allah.
Yes, sir.
I want to welcome you all again. This is another episode of Solution Separation 1090 in conjunction with Muhammad Study Group of Rochester, New York. I'm going to see you forward here. Today we're representing the 26th anniversary of the Million Man March. Panel discussion, Black Youth in Peril. One more clip here, and then we will proceed. Brother Kenneth will take it from here. Give me one moment.
So today, whether you like it or not, God brought the idea through me, and He didn't bring it through me because my heart was dark with hatred and anti-Semitism. He didn't bring it through me because my heart was dark and I'm filled with hatred for white people and for the human family of the planet. If my heart were that dark, how is the message so bright, the message so clear, the response so magnificent? We responded to a call, and look at what is present here today.
All right, Brother Kenneth, it's all yours, sir. You're on mute, brother.
Apparently, we couldn't see the video, but, technology is technology, but we're going to continue to move on with our program. I know we was already able to hear the sound. All praises due to Allah. In 1995, the year of the Million Man March, the Black family, in particular, in the Black community in general, were in trouble. The results of years of neglect, chemical warfare, perpetrated against Black people in the form of crack cocaine, and the mass incarceration of Black men followed under the guise of the war on drugs. Between 1984 and 1989, the homicide rate for Black males aged 14 to 17 more than doubled. So today, brothers and sisters, thank you for joining us. We have some dynamic speakers who will continue on with this conversation about Black Youth in Peril and the Million Man March. So at this time, I would just like to ask our panelists to introduce themselves and just give us their expertise, their background, and we'll start with home base, Brother Ronald Muhammad from Rochester, New York.
Assalamu alaikum, family.
Recording in progress.
Wa alaikum salam.
In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, I bear witness no God but Allah, and I bear witness that Muhammad is his messenger. Once again, I give you the greeting privilege of peace about Assalamu alaikum. You know, I started off back in, I believe it was about 2001. Around that particular time, I started off of dealing with our Black youth through a program called the Syracuse Partnership to Reach Juvenile Gun Violence. It was a collaboration of law enforcement and community agencies, and I got that opportunity to work with Black youth, so-called street Q affiliations, gang members in the city of Syracuse, New York. And I was guided by the leadership of one of the student ministers in Syracuse at that particular time. Now he's currently is Brother Minister Mark Muhammad, who had the confidence and, gave me the support to go into the streets, which is the real work of the FOI, to go into the streets of the youth, to deal with our youth and deal with the escalating juvenile gun violence in the city of Syracuse. And, I started off, and just working with our youth, and I never had that expertise. I wasn't, I had went to college for journalism, so it was totally opposite of what I was, I thought I would be doing, but Allah knew best. And Brother Minister Mark obviously seen something in me that I could utilize, something that I had in me that I didn't even know I had in me to go out there and work with our youth. So I started off working with these gang members, and I got a chance to work with them and try to give them alternatives to violence, if it was through education, job, conflict resolution, and going to the court system and actually try to get some type of leniency for them to help them come into our program, to help hopefully they could, change their lives up for a more better cause. And from there, I got employed as a Nation of Islam minister in New York State Corrections, and that's where I'm currently in for the last almost 17 years. And some of those youth that I work with in the streets of Syracuse eventually came to prison. And I would realize that I had the opportunity to see them, that those I work with in the streets, and unfortunately they continue to make the wrong decision. So I was able to, work with them, and I saw them in prison. And this work has just been continuing on and on and on. And, this is something that I love to do. I understand the need. I understand that this justifiable homicide, Black Youth in Peril, is a reality today. And, I'm currently an assistant student minister of Muhammad Studies of Rochester, helping Brother Minister Kenneth Muhammad now. So that's a little brief history of what I do and what I've been doing. And I've been doing this for almost 20 some years, almost 21, 22 years. I've been in this particular work, really working with our youth and working with our people. So that's just a brief synopsis of what I'm striving to do, what I'm doing now. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir, Brother. Brother Minister Kelvin, if you can just introduce yourself and where you're from and your expertise.
Thank you, Brother Kenneth. Can I be heard?
Yes, sir.
First of all, I'd like to thank you and all of the organizers for this event. And I really appreciate the opportunity to share the wisdom and experience that God has blessed me to be able to come through with the help of God. And what I've learned being in the Nation of Islam has only buttressed all of those experiences. It has been just about 30 years, brother, that I've been working with youth families, and community. I started my career in corrections for a short time, and I left corrections after maybe about 4 years. And as I always tell my young people, I wanted to work with people, who still had life instead of working with people who had life. And so I went and I started working within the very same high school that I graduated from, actually, and just started really dealing with leadership development amongst teenagers. And then dealing with at-risk, so-called at-risk youth, especially our young males, and then go deeper into connecting with families and helping families, because as anyone knows, if you're working with young people, you're not just working with that young person. You are definitely working with their family as well. And then, of course, the community that they live in. And so I developed this 3-tier way of expressing the work. We work with youth to connect with families to change the community. And over the last 5 years of this 30 years, I have been in community organizing. And so now I've combined the youth development side with the community organizing side, and we come up with this thing called youth organizing. And we have young people now who are on the front lines and addressing the issues that face them in their own community. On one side, again, I've been dealing with prevention in terms of helping young people develop in a positive way. And then on the other side, it's been intervention. When we have young people who are either in trouble with the courts or find themselves in trouble in the streets, I have a team, and we actually are out there in the streets connecting with our young people to save their lives. I'll start right there.
Thank you, brother. Student Minister Willie.
Yes, sir. So, of course, I've been striving to be the student minister of Muhammad Mosque number 46. In addition to that, I have my professional experiences in the field of education. I've been a teacher for over 20-some years, right? And in addition to that, we started in 2009, the New Orleans Peacekeepers with our Captain Emeritus, Brother Dennis Muhammad, and using what we've been taught in the Nation of Islam. When we will go around doing these trainings, we've been to about 25 cities since 10-10-15 with the conflict resolution training, and we've done some cities online during COVID. But when we will go to cities, some of the people would ask us, where did we go for training and stuff like this? And I would just be thinking about, I didn't go to some institution where they taught us how to do conflict resolution. It was what I learned from being a student of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And one day our student captain pulled me to the side. He said, man, he said, you got to stop saying it. We have training. He said, man, it's what we learned in the FOI class. So that training, I realized it. And as I thought about it, it was seeing the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan teach on conflict resolution and even demonstrate how to do it that has taught us. And we moved out, brother. We didn't become what we say paralysis by analysis. And we just moved out. And what we've been trying to do is continue to make the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan's word bond and our word bond with what he said he wanted as an action item for the historic anniversary of the historic Million Man March on 10-10-15. Yes,
Praise is due to Allah. Well, thank you. And we are honored that each and every one of you are with us today to offer your analysis of Black Youth in Peril and the Million Man March. Just a note of housekeeping. We ask that if you can stay muted if you can, so that we do not disturb the flow of today's panel discussion. And for those who are following on our Facebook page, you will have opportunity to drop questions, and we will field those questions to the panelists when that time comes. So I want to continue to read, and then we will get into our question to our panelists. During that same time period of 1995, the Black community also experienced a 20% to 100% increase in fatal death rates, low birth rate babies, weapons arrests, and the number of children in foster care. According to statistical reports, 1 in every 4 Black males aged 20 to 29 years old was either incarcerated or on probation or parole by 1989, contributing to the United States having the highest incarceration rate in the world. By 1995, the statistics had increased to nearly 1 in 3, further exacerbating the trauma worldwide. The Black male was denigrated through negative racial stereotypes in American media and popular culture. These were negative images of Black men as savage, uncivilized, berserk beasts in Hollywood movies, such as Boys in the Hood and Menace to Society. A generation or so has passed in these 26 years, and we have a new generation who know nothing about the Million Man March. Our first question to the panelists: how do we inform the present generation about the Million Man March? Any panelists would like to, or I can pick Brother Willie?
Yes, sir. One of the things that I personally begin to start doing from being a teacher, I make sure when it's coming up around the Million Man March, I talk about it, right? I create some type of activity based upon this historic event. And I also, when I approach it and speak about it, I refer to it as the historic Million Man March. In addition to that, we have access with social media where you have to begin to start promoting it. But one of the ways that I think that something that we can begin to start doing, and it'll be beautiful, we can do this in cities all throughout the nation. If we begin to start creating a citywide essay contest about the historic Million Man March, right? If we begin to start getting the testimonies of people who attended the Million Man March and begin to start posting them. In the city of New Orleans, there's something that's called the Amistad Collection. And the Amistad Collection is a collection of historic documents connected to the Black struggle. There are letters from Dr. King. There are letters from W.B. Du Bois, right? It used to sit on a campus, HBCU. Now it sits on the campus of Tulane University, which is a private white Jewish university. But they collect stuff. And when I thought about it, I'm like, man, something, we need to have something in there that years down the line, people can know the truth about the Million Man March. So I was able to find a Final Call newspaper that was produced directly after the march. We were able to get some pictures, and we gave a DVD copy of it and donated it to that collection so it can be in there. And in closing, I think that social media now, that's the language. That's the language of the young people. Social media, we have to post it, and share our stories.
Thank you.
Brother, that's very good. One of the things that we have here in our city, we have a picture from the Million Man March hanging up, right? And it's prominently placed so that when young folks see it, they what is that, right? And they ask that question. And that gives us an opportunity to say, I always tell them, I say, if you look right there, you can see me, right? And that starts that conversation about the Million Man March. I also, and this is very good, Brother Willie, in terms of education, I let them use their smartphone. I tell them something happened in 1995 that changed the entire world. And then I get them looking it up. All right. And they come up with this and they come up with that. And then finally someone will say, the Million Man March, that's it. And then you have them go deeper, right? And ask questions. And, and once they start to watch that video or read a few words or paragraphs, that's when the real, the interest starts to pick up. I think it is vital for us to get it into the schools. I think it is vital to get it into the history class, the civics class. I know that in our state here in Connecticut, a law was passed mandating Black history and what they call Latinx history to be taught in every school in the state of Connecticut, not just our city, but in the state of Connecticut. Now, of course, the next question becomes, who's going to teach it, right? But it is there. And I believe that what it could do is open the door for us to make sure that the history, the historic history of the Million Man March stays on the forefront.
Wonderful. Thank you, Brother Kelvin. Brother Ronald?
Yes, sir. You know, what's interesting, I remember one day I was at work and I was doing rounds, and I went to the shoe where brothers are locked up 23 out of 24 hours a day. And I went to this brother's cell, and we're talking, and it was Black History Month, and I shared with him, one of the most significant events in Black History Month that they never talk about. Have you ever heard of the Million Man March? He says, no. I says, in 1995, this is, the significance of the Million Man March. Brother said to me, brother, I wasn't even born then. It was 1998. So I said, wow. So I shared with him the significance of the Million Man March, who was there. I showed some rappers were there. He recognized that, some of the entertainers, and so I tried to come to them where they are and their understanding, and show them why don't they talk about this? Where over close to 2 million Black men came together, and there was no fighting, nobody stole nothing. I share an example of a brother. One of the brothers in my city left his jacket, and he got up and he walked away from his jacket, and the people came up to him as he was walking away. Brother, you left your jacket, things like that, and just some of the magnitude of looking out of a sea of Black men, heads and heads, and of Black men for miles and miles. You could see Black heads, and that's intriguing and interesting to them, because the enemy is keeping that out of the schools, like Brother Kelvin said. He's done that purpose, deliberately, to keep that out of that our history books, so our youth doesn't see the significance of Black unity. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. So at this time, I'm going to give it to my co-host, who has the next set of questions.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Brother Kenneth. Powerful reflection from the brothers. So my question in regards to, the Million Man March, we know it happens in October where we do the celebration. So my question would be, as in a degree of moving forward, how do we think about going forward, moving a plan together to where we can further implement the history of the Million Man March in front of the children, in front of the youth, so they have a better understanding instead of waiting for that. It's great that we celebrate it in that month, but being that they try to wipe us out the history books, try to wipe out the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, the honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan's significance of that Million Man March. What can we do, or what would be a plan you all think, as far as just whether it's in facilities or schools, what can we do to implement the Million Man March history-wise to keep it at the forefront of our youth's mind?
Very good.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead, Brother Kelvin.
So, brother, I'm really new to certain aspects of the social media. I got a Facebook page, and all my young people say, that's old, So young people today are still on social media. They're on Snapchat, they're on Instagram, and what I've learned from watching the young people, and even the young people that are connected to us through the nation, being able to create content is extremely important, right?
Yes, sir.
And so I think that the more creative that we can be, right? And I'll say this, whether it's activity books or games or even animation, these young people today are so creative.
Yes, sir.
We have to have them involved in whatever the process is going to be, so that because they will come up with things that we won't even think about, beloved.
Yes, sir.
We won't even think about it they'll come up with something like a million teen Instagram something or other, you know, and shut down the internet, brother. It's just amazing what these young people can do in terms of this technology. So the one thing that I would say is, you know, we get the young people to help us, you know, we the old folks now, right? To help us create content that will keep the Million Man March relevant.
Brother Willie or Brother Ronald, would you like to add on to that?
Yes, sir. And I, like, you know, like Brother Kelvin said, we have to be creative. And sometimes instead of us coming with the idea, we can tap into our youth and tap into their creativity and give them the ability to, you know, expand on it and be able to put it in their magnificent language, you know, in a poetry kind of way. You know that about that, brother.
Yes, sir.
In a poetic kind of way. A rap, musical, use their talents.
Yes.
Just you know, that artistic way to get them to see the value and the significance of the Million Man March, because they, you know, we got it at our fingertips. You know, we got Facebook Live, we got Instagram, you know, they got TikTok, all that stuff, and just put it in little clips and attract them and come to them where they are.
Yes.
And that, I believe that's something that we can bring it to modern day times using modern day technology. So that's just my opinion.
Absolutely. Beautiful. Yes, sir.
I'll just say as brother, and like as brother said, you know, we don't have to wait till October to begin to start doing it. You know, anytime that we have the opportunity, post the pictures, and hey, do you know what this event is? And just let people know and begin to start embracing them. You know, like sometimes I like rap music, and sometimes I come across some of the big name rappers who may say something in reference to the Million Man March, and I might just post a picture of the march and put their caption. Like Instagram gives you this opportunity where you can have a picture and it can show the lyrics being shown. Like, and one of the times I posted where Jay-Z said, I prayed for the Day of Atonement, Nas and Annulment. But that's what he was talking about, the Million Man March.
Right.
And so I post stuff like that when they talk about it, and just to put it out there with this social media, man, is that you got, you know, if you add all of our social media followers on here now, we're probably in the thousands. Just post it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Absolutely. Thank you,
Brother Cedric, if I could add on, because I'm being stimulated just by these answers that we're getting. Brother Willie mentioned earlier, you know, about an essay contest, right? These young folks today, you know, we can have all kinds of contests, right? It might be the Million Man March TikTok contest.
Right.
And
Yes,
I mean, I see so many things going, I think they call it viral, right? On TikTok and social media. I'm like, man, if you put this into the hands of our young people and just stand back and watch what they could do, we would really be impressed. And as you know, coming up in the FOI, we say quick thinking, fast moving,
yes,
right down to the modern times. Well, the modern times looks like TikTok, looks like Instagram, and for, you know, folks like me, Facebook.
Right. Yes, sir. You know, Brother Cedric, also, like Brother Willie, I found a clip on Facebook that I put on my Facebook page. It's from Method Man. He was on the Breakfast Club.
Yes, sir.
And they were going back and forth about the crime rate. And Method Man gave reference to the Million Man Marches, you know, of the crime rate in New York City at that particular time going down because of the Million Man March.
Go ahead.
So, you know, it's right at our fingertips, brother.
Right.
You know, and, you know, a lot of our young people don't know that clip may be how many years ago, but something significant that somebody like Method Man said, wow, the Million Man March. Okay. I can dig that. So, yes, sir. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Praise is due to Allah. Love that synergy going on. So, brothers, let's look at, you know, what's going on in your city, what's going on in our city. You know, we just recently had a 15-year-old who was killed. 15 years old. And the homicide rate in Rochester, New York, now we have reached 68, the highest that it has ever been. So I know many of the cities may be experiencing the same trend. And so the Million Man March, the message, of atonement, reconciliation, and responsibility, how do we apply that message today to our youth and just into our people in general? How do we apply that message of atonement, reconciliation, and responsibility in light of the homicide rate that is growing in our city and may be growing in your city?
That's such a heavy question, Brother Kenneth. I tell you, we in the city of Hartford, Connecticut, are experiencing a homicide rate at a height that we have not seen in 2 decades. We, like many of you in your cities, they border on the line of atrocities. We had a shootout in our city just before the summer came in, where a 3-year-old baby was killed in the crossfire of our young men shooting at each other. And then just around the corner from that same location, we had a 17-year-old who was coming up to be a prominent rapper, as a matter of fact. He was gunned down. And then almost 3 to 4 weeks later, at his memorial, right there where he lived, a 16-year-old was killed at his memorial. And so it's just so sad, brother, because over and over and over again, we continue to see our young men dying, our mothers crying over this, as the minister told us, this fratricide. We have to go back to the basics, I believe, beloved. Our people don't know what we have been through as a people. You think about that statement that is attributed to Harriet Tubman, that she could have saved more if only that they had known that they were slaves. That's what it feels like many a times.
Yes, sir.
But there is rampant trauma that is running through our community. And so we need a healing. I wish I could say there was one thing, but it's not one thing, in my opinion. We need multiple facets of healing. We need multiple answers to be able to address this issue. But I will give one. And I think it is going in and making this connection with our young men. Reconnecting the older Black and brown man to the younger Black and brown man. And really introducing them to these teachings. And watch this. They'll push back. Oh, I don't want to be there go the lights. All right. We got the motion detector on, Brother Kenneth.
Oh, yes, sir. Detecting evil, brother? No,
brother, everybody's saving money now, brother. It's
yes,
COVID,
sir.
brother.
Yes, sir.
But I'll just wrap it up this way, to address this trauma, brother. That is one of the prongs of this many tiered answer to address this trauma. We got to go down as early as possible, get back into the family, right? Because, these children came from somewhere, and these teachings that have helped us, right? They have helped us, brother. I'm just bearing witness. I could have easily been one of those young statistics. And especially around, if you came up in the 80s, in the 90s, all right, it was in our hip hop music. We had hip hop music that taught us to be awake and to be conscious. Right. Whenever Chuck D said Farrakhan's a prophet that I think you ought to listen to, I said, man, let me check out who is this Farrakhan then.
Yes, sir.
When we had the 5%ers always talking about the gods and the knowledge, wisdom, and the understanding, okay, let me pick this up. Our young people don't have that advantage today. And so we just have to embed in every aspect of their lives and in our community more of this consciousness, more of this life-giving teaching is what I would say.
Thank you. Thank you. Student Minister Willie.
You made me think about one, we have to really consistently implement and carry out and promote what the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan asked at the 20th anniversary of the historic Million Man March, which was to set up conflict resolution initiatives around the city.
Yes.
That's one of the things. And we can always go back and point to how 26 years ago, there were people who came to the march who squashed beefs and put past issues that they had. I think about the young brothers, the brother he's been on like the Love and Hip Hop shows, Corey Guns, Peter Guns. There was an article in the Final Call newspaper, and I think the video is somewhere online where he talked about it too. Leading up to the Million Man March, he wasn't even planning on going. He had gotten to a beef in his neighborhood and he was going to kill a brother. And when he expressed that to somebody, they said, man, before you go and do it, why don't you come to the march? And when he came to the march and felt the spirit and heard the words of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, who returned back to his city, he let that desire go to want to kill this brother. So what we can do is, when we go out with this conflict resolution initiative, we are throwing a life preserver to our people who are drowning in the lake of fire of this world. So if we consistently do it, I've seen where we have not been consistent in doing it. Sometimes I've seen, like, some of us, we go to other people's events and forget that we have an agenda. If we've been invited to somebody's Stop the Killing rally, we definitely go there and support. But remember, we have a program as well, and this is our opportunity while they're complaining about violence and stuff like that. We can say, yes, violence is out of hand, but here's what we want to add to it.
Yes.
And I do know that there's some, now get me wrong, man. One of the brothers in our city, he always talks about how violence is a disease, right? When you see the word kill, you drop the K, you get ill at the end. It's an illness, it's a disease. Some of these beefs are at stage 4. They're equivalent to stage 4 cancer.
Yes.
Where they have to run this course, unfortunately. Or Allah intervenes and changes the hearts and the minds of these brothers and sisters, as he says in the Quran, you all were on a brink of fire until I intervene. Some of us allow these stage 4 status beefs to stop us from pushing the conflict initiative, and we think that it doesn't work. But let's say, okay, we can't get them. But I guarantee you, at least, if we solve some of these murders that just started from people having a simple argument, we can begin to start reducing our homicide rate in our city. In the city of New Orleans, if the homicide rate was 160 the previous year and it dropped down to 150 this year, man, they celebrate. We had a reduction in whatever. So I know we can. We just have to be consistent. We have to constantly push, and I'll close on this. Here's an idea, right? We're about to reopen our mosques and study groups on November the 14th, inshallah. Think about within the course of a year, how many people are going to come to our meetings on Sunday. What if when they came to the meeting on Sunday, when they walked up to the secretary table, we gave them a flyer for the conflict resolution hotline? And then when we got ready to do announcements, when we do our announcements, we say, listen, how many of you all who are here for the first time, you got one of these flyers? They raise their hand. We give them a brief list under description about the hotline, and we ask them. We would ask you, brother and sister, since you come here, you heard our spirit, you see our love for our community, would you be willing that if you got into a conflict or somebody you know you got into a conflict, that you will give us a call before you take matters into your own hand? I guarantee you, if we did that, brothers and the sisters who are online, by the end of the year, we will be able to submit a report to the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan of people that we have helped to resolve a conflict.
Yes.
Thank you.
We got to be proactive and consistent.
Yes, sir. Brother Ronald?
Yes, sir. To follow what Brother Brother Willie touched on conflict resolution is so vital. And the tools that we have in the conflict resolution course is absolutely so important to give, because, I've sat with brothers dealing with conflict resolution and beefs that they had with each other, another person. And many of them, it's not that real deep. If they really sit down and analyze and see why I got an issue with this brother and why I want to, kill this brother, or I want to, take this brother's whole family out, because like your brother Willie said, once you get to stage 4, that you can make a decision that's going to take less than 10 seconds, and you're going to be actually paying for it for the next 25 years of your life, based on something. If we have the courage and be able to give a man the tool to try to come sit down and have some type of steps of atonement and reconciliation, and because they really don't rising above your emotions into the thinking of God, and we got to give them what the words of the Honorable Mr. Farrakhan has given us to encourage them, like, brother, this decision that you're making you're gonna be paying for it. You could be paying for it for 20, 30 years. Are you ready to handle that risk? Taking a man's life, and if you sit down and really look at it, is it something that can be reconciled? So, what we have the word of the Honorable Farrakhan, and regardless of how we analyze it, if we think it's far beyond repair, we have to tap into the God within and try to settle that differences, because these, when you're in that emotional period of, want to hurt your brother or harm your brother, you're really not thinking about the consequences when all is said and done. Thank you, brother.
Thank you. So at this time, I'll give it back to my co-host.
That was very powerful, brothers. That was very powerful. Now, just adding on to that, Brother Kenneth, that frequency, brother, we there. And I was thinking of the 8 steps of atonement, and just within the conflict resolution, as Brother Willie touched on, Brother Student Minister Willie touched on. So I just wanted to read something from Romans real quick here, chapter 12, verse 2. And be not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind, that ye may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God. So with that being understood, out of the 8 steps, although the whole diagram and the perfection of the 8 steps of atonement are viable and vital to the resurrection of the mental state of our people, when it comes to conflict resolution, which of those 8 steps of atonement, brothers, do you feel we can implement into the school system, into our communities, to show our children a different way of handling themselves and these beefs that they're currently interacting in?
I think in regards to, we can't separate it from one step. All of it is included. But what we would have to do sometimes is take it, like I would hear people, and I used to see this, the elders in our community, they was feeding the baby. Sometimes they would take the food and chew it in their mouth and then put it in the baby's mouth, right? To break it down. And sometimes that's what we have to do. We have to be able to take it and be able to communicate it using the language and the cultural references that reflect and are communicated in with the crowd, right? That we're actually addressing. And we can actually it's part of that it is part of the process of conflict resolution, because it's showing us how to resolve an issue. And that's what our people are lacking. Like right now, think about this. I tell people when we do these conflict resolution trainings that we have to create a culture of conflict resolution, because right now our people don't know how to resolve conflict. Resolving conflict is what mama or daddy or big brother told us. If somebody do you something, pick something up and bust them in their mouth. Or if we're not saying that, and I've been guilty of this, you have those in the community who say that they're fighting to resolve violence. They say stuff like this. Man, why can't we go back to the days when we resolve our issues with our hands instead of a gun? That's not the way of a civilized man. Civilized people don't go from having a conflict to, I'm going to put these hands on you. What about talking? What about seeing if there's a misunderstanding? So that process is needed. We just have to put it in a way where people are able to get it in whatever the environment is. And what I do is this on social media. Anytime I come across somebody squashing beat, be it a hip hop artist, entertainers, celebrities, whoever, I reshare that and say, see, conflict can be resolved.
Yes, sir. Beautiful. Beautiful. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay. And like, sometimes like Brother Willie talking about the chewing of the food, sometimes, sometimes when your children are sick, sometimes if they look at the medicine in its raw form, they used to tasting it before. They're like, nah, I don't want it. But sometimes you may have to put it in applesauce. You have to disguise it a little bit. Then you'll be able to give them the medicine, something that's good to them. So they really don't, they like applesauce, but there's something in the applesauce that they necessarily need to be healed. Yeah. And it's the same thing with the word. We got to be able to put it in a mathematical way, in a way that they could understand it's in their best interest, because once again, once you get to the point where I'm going to put my hands up, well, that's still not really settling the conflict. And it's not one step of atonement, because they divinely and sequenced by God's man, the Messiah, in a manner that we can learn from each step, because nobody wants to acknowledge the wrong, and that's the step that people wrangle with, and they want to stay there because they don't want to feel that they were wrong in how they perceiving this person that has done, that they want to take their lives. So there's nothing that we can take out from me, from the words of the homeless Farrakhan, but we got to put it in a mathematical way for them to be able to see the value in settling your differences, living in peace and harmony. So yeah, that's something how I see it, my brothers. Thank you.
Powerful. Thank you, brother.
That's good. That's good. Brother Cedric, I would just add very quickly, all of the 8 steps are very vital to the entire process. But then I would also say, going back to what we spoke about earlier, is working with our young people, right? And extracting from them the way in which they might see the 8 steps applied to them, so that they would accept it, right? What I say to my teenagers that I work with is, wherever you see the drama, look for the trauma. Mm. If there is drama, you should know that there's some trauma going on. Right. And so this person over here who has never had their trauma dealt with, and this person over here who has never had their trauma dealt with, and then they meet up on the street or in whatever the circumstances is, and there it is, right? You have 2 people who are hurt. And as we are taught, hurt people hurt people. Yes, sir. And so this process of healing is a process that starts, as internally. It starts with ourselves. I teach my young people all the time that the flip side, the other side of the coin of hurt people is that healed people heal people. Right. Yes, sir. Very powerful. Yes, sir. Powerful.
Beautiful. So I want to go back to something that you said, Minister Kelvin, and you referenced hip hop, if I heard you correctly. Yes, sir. And so let's look at that in terms of, in 1995, it was Hollywood. It was Boys in the Hood and movies like Menace to Society that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan looked at, and how these images, negative images, was being played out against the Black man and the Black male. So do you brothers, it's kind of like, I already know, but let's look at how do you think these images through hip hop and in the various movies and the various shows, reality shows that our young people are looking at, how do you think these images in the popular culture, how do you think this is affecting our young people?
Brother Kenneth, I'll give two pieces, and then I will allow my brothers to expound on that. But two pieces that I use right now when I'm working with my young men, especially. Number one, there used to be a rap group called Arrested Development. Any y'all old heads out there?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah.
Right? And they had an enlightened form of hip hop. Well, the leader of that group, he actually has two videos that you can find on YouTube. And I have all of especially my male students, before we can do any work together, you need to watch this video because it'll lay down a foundation for how we're going to interact from here. And that the name of the video is called we say the N-word, right? Being PC. The N-word factory. The N-word factory. And within this video, he very succinctly speaks of how the mass media has created this image of our people, especially our young men, and then marketed that image across the world. So all of my young people have to watch that so that I can let them know. Take a look at the tag on your shirt. It may say Made in America. And so the behavior that you are carrying out is not your natural self. That's not who you are, brother. That's not who you are, sister. And then what will happen is, we start to use that language. And then when one of those moments flare up, you'll hear them say you acting just like you're from the factory. All right, that's that factory behavior right there.
Right.
And so what I start to see now is that, okay, they're waking up. The last video, and again, I'll pass it on from here. The last video is that in 2020, and you can find this on YouTube again, there was a video that was released entitled 200 Rappers Killed in 1 Year. Oh, family, please look that up. 200 rappers killed in 1 year. And they go through, there go the lights. I'm going to do it in the dark. They gave images of who these young people are, the songs that they sung, and the cause of death. And most of the time, I'm talking 90% of the 200, it was homicide. I'll stop right there, brother.
Yes, sir.
Beautiful. Thank you, brother. Thank you.
In regards to, as much as I like hip hop, I have to be honest that there is there's a segment of it that is contributing to the mindset that's causing this violence. But every song is, especially now with the drill rap, is shoot, shoot, kill, kill. You can't keep listening to that all the time and not want to get you a gun. You see what I'm saying? If you see a rapper on television and he has a certain pair of tennis shoes on and you want to go and get it, a certain clothing item on it, you want to go and get it. The same thing also happens in regards to the content that they're doing. And we understand that they're part of a plan that they don't even know that they're being used because they think that they're just putting their art out, but they're being used and it's contributing to the violence that's in our community. And like our brother brought up about how the conscious rap, remember when you have more of a balance of conscious rap on the radio, you have more and more people wanting to be conscious, wearing the African medallions. But the enemy got rid of that, right?
Trust me.
He got rid of that, and so it's intentional. And what I realize, brother, sometimes with my students, I sit down and we get some of the lyrics and we go over them. Some of them don't even fully understand the lyrics.
That's right.
They get the part about get the gun, the glicky, the bang bang, but they don't even get it. You see what I'm saying? And they don't even really know how they're programmed. I watched an interview with Kanye West yesterday, and Kanye West was talking about how the 808 beat. He said that the the frequency in which it beats on is at the lowest level. I forgot how he put it. So they're taking it, and they know this. They know they know this, but the music is contributing to it. So here's some of the things that we used to do before to utilize. Say, for example, I can't get in contact with the Babies or the Lil Waynes in New Orleans, but there's some local rappers who haven't got to that level yet that on their IG page they got 30,000 followers, 10,000 followers here on Twitter. So what I do is, using our connections, we reach out to them and say, hey man, we're having this hip hop discussion at our mosque. We want you to participate. And we did it on a Friday, and we titled it Hip Hop Study Group. And what we did was we took the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan's lecture on hip hop, came up with questions that make it fit like self-improvement, but related to the topic. We hired a DJ, and we got these rappers to come. For many of them, it was their first time in a mosque. We sit down and we discuss the minister's words about hip hop and hear them talk. And then after that, we open up and we have like a cipher. We say no cursing. We didn't even have to tell many of them no cursing because they kind of understood the environment. But it was another way for us to affect them. And then one time we gave a hip hop summit, and every rapper that came in there, we made sure that they got a copy of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan's lecture to the hip hop artists on the East Coast. Nice. So because we have to begin to start influencing them. So when they know better, you see a change in their content. Right. You know, it's a slow change. Look at how with Rick Ross, he talking about buying land now, Bob the Block. Snoop Dogg went to make a gospel album. Look at how all of them rappers that have been around the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, he influences them. And I got some table talk notes where the minister says, he asked the question, he said, why do you think I'm able to attract these artists and celebrities? He said, because I don't freeze them when they come around me. Meaning, I know their shortcomings, but I'm lifting them up. And oftentimes he's teaching them about their own power that they don't even realize that they have.
That's right.
And I'll close on this. There's one of the last documentaries that they did on Tupac. I think it's called The Resurrection. Tupac said that it scared him when he realized how much power he had over his audience. He said that he realized if he told them to put their hand on their head in a concert and turn around in a circle, they would do it. He said that he realized because he had that type of influence, he had to come up with something constructive and positive. And that's when he began to start coming up with this one nation, something, the thug rules or whatever. But he did something based upon his limited knowledge. So if we can begin to start influencing forming relationships first with the local rappers in our community, like in y'all school systems. There's a young brother in my school, so he got like 10,000 followers. He an up and coming little rapper. So if I be a friend of him, follow him on Instagram and feed him stuff, something is going to catch, and we'll begin to start seeing it in his music.
That's right. Very good, sir. You know, one thing that I share with brothers, I ask them about the concept of loyalty, and how do you see loyalty? How do you perceive what real loyalty is? And I share with them the shows that the enemy is posting on that some of us watch every day, and we don't really understand why is this show so popular. One is the first 48. Now the first 48, it always portrays these particular major cities, and most of it that they show is black on black crime, and most of them about some of these brothers that coming from the so-called street affiliation or gangs, and they come in and they betray, they end up, slaying one of their brothers, and most of the Caucasian detectives do their investigation, mostly Caucasian, do the investigation, whatever it be, and they find out, catch one, and then the one, they get him in the interrogation room, and he end up ratting on the other. So I showed you that's that man that was with you when you were doing your crime, but where is he now? He's telling on you, he's snitching on you, right? So the loyalty that you had in that wickedness wasn't really real, it was the illusion, right? So you thought you had some camaraderie with that man. When all said and done, when the heat came on him and it's easy to walk with a man in the cool of the day, but it's hard to walk with that man in the heat, the cool of the night, but in the heat of the day, he turns on you. So what's that? So what loyalty did you really have? And some are involved in organizations that they don't even know the root of how that organization got started. For one quick example, the Bloods. So I share with the brothers, who found the Bloods, man? Did you know the man that found the Bloods came from the Black Panther Party? And the Black Panther Party loved the Nation of Islam, but they didn't want you really submit to the religion part of it. So it shows you that you got a connection to us that you didn't even know existed. The blood stand for brotherly love, overcoming oppression and destruction. But y'all oppressing each other. Blood is against blood. Crip is against Crip. Crip is community revolutionary in progress. So it started off on something positive, but the enemy came in and implanted the negative response because you brothers loved each other, and there wasn't no bloodshed at that level it is now in the beginning, but now you're all divided. And real quick ending, I give them an example. I gave a brother yesterday. I said, well, brother, he beefing with his brother and the Bloods against the Bloods, Buffalo against Rochester. I said, that don't make any sense, brother. I said, what would you say if you turn on the TV and you seen the FOI in Harlem fighting in the street with the FOI in Brooklyn? Come on. What would you say? He said, that look crazy, brother. That's how I see you, man. It don't make no sense. You're from the same source, the same word, the same organization. Thank you, brother.
Thank you, brother. Thank you.
Man, that was heavy, brothers. You're bringing the pain. I wanted to come from the final card here, the unity of 22 million, pardon me. The lack of self-love, the lack of love for self and kind keeps us divided. And being divided, we are a nation of prey at the hands of our open enemies. So my question is, there's been a lot of vocabulary thrown around, thinking of trauma, thinking of, brother just mentioned the word loyalty. How do we get our children, our youth, especially, that's involved in this gang activity, to understand the importance of self-love?
And first, we have to teach them what self-love is, and we have to demonstrate and give them some examples of how self-love looks. But remember, we can't get to loving self until we know self. Exactly. You know what I'm saying? So that is it. We have to get it. One of the activities that I do with young people is this. I start my class off. I said, tell me something good. Tell me 2-3 good things about yourself. Some of them come up. Some of them give some stuff, but it's really not about them. Some of them like, man, you pass, I don't got nothing. Some of them struggle. And then I come back and say, listen, you don't have to raise your hand, but I want you to think about your thoughts. I said, if you had a hard time saying something good about yourself, you got to ask yourself why. And then I begin to start telling them about, listen, whatever you've been through, that's not the real you. You see what I'm saying? We got to teach it, and we got to constantly keep putting it in them, because they're in environments where they're getting contrary messages. And now they're talking about how many of them are committing suicide. I think they said during this COVID, I think the suicide rate in black youth was on an increase, because many of them now are comparing themselves to what they're seeing on social media that is not even real. Right. There's this sister, man, this is a beautiful sister. She was on Breakfast Club, and you scanning on Instagram, you come across stuff, you ain't on their page, you're like, wow, it's a beautiful sister. This sister talked about on Breakfast Club how I didn't know that she had paid to get her facial features and her body to look the way it is. And I said to myself, damn, man, how many girls are seeing this woman and saying, I want my body like that, I want to look like her, and they don't even know that this girl has paid almost into the hundreds of thousands of dollars. So you're depressed, and you can't love yourself because you're chasing after something that is not even natural, it's made up. So we got to constantly keep telling them that, the love of self, and put them in environments where they can realize they can know themselves and love themselves, you know?
Yes, sir.
Something that we used this summer. Every year, the nonprofit that I work with, you know, we hire about 350 to 400 youth, and they work for us for about 5 weeks. This year, I took a smaller group from within that group that is or would be described as, again, that high risk population, young brothers between the ages of 14 to 17. And, you know, in our city, and I'm sure like many others, but there's been a rise in car thefts, right? Robberies, lots of gunplay, and so forth. And some of the young men that I had in this particular group were from that population. So again, they don't really know me. I don't really know them. Let's get started. As we go through this program, I continuously address them as I was addressed as a young 5%. We used to always say, yo, God, I need you to do this. Hey, God, what's going on over here? And it's always, so every time I'm addressing them, it's, God, you know what I'm saying? God, you know what I'm talking about? Until somebody says eventually, why you keep calling us God?
Yes, sir.
I said, well, brother, have you looked in the mirror?
Come on. Beautiful.
Do you not know who you are? And then that starts the process, right? Shake their hand when they come in, shake their hand when they go out, right? These young brothers, and I'm sure you've seen them, you have them, they are looking for leadership. They don't necessarily want to be what the media has portrayed them. I asked them the question, where did you learn to sag your pants? Was there a class? Did we miss a memo? How many of you know that sagging spelt backwards is niggas?
That's right.
Oh, you ought to see the expression. And I know, you know, we got educators here. So, you know, so your whiteboard, right? And your dry erase markers, you got to have.
Right.
All right?
That's right.
And it is this quickening of thought, this quickening of consciousness that eventually allows us to get to the quickening of the spirit.
Correct.
And that self-accusing spirit that now allows them to check themselves.
Right.
You know, it was Malcolm Gladwell who wrote his book, The Tipping Point. And of course, he talked about, and I'll put it in simple ways, that 10,000 hours of a particular practice makes one an expert, right? And so I told my group, I believe that if I call you brother 10,000 times, eventually you'll believe it. Now, if I say it once a day, every day, it's going to take me about 27 years, brother. I don't have that kind of time. And so every time you turn around, it's going to be brother, 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 because I need to get my 10,000 in for you to understand who we are.
Right. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yes, sir.
You know, brothers, you know, one of the major crimes in America is identity theft. And identity theft is when someone is taking your name, your pertinent information, and they utilize it to accumulate all types of type of credit without you really knowing this been done. And when you find out, the creditors are checking you down and say, you know, Mr. Johnson, you know, he said that wasn't me. That you know, that charge like credit. Prove it. Well, no, I got no. They got all your information. And they got your social security, your birthday, yeah. I know. Well, then again, you're gonna have to prove this wasn't you. And when I talk with brothers, I'm saying, well, brother, you know, identity theft. Someone has stolen your identity because your identity that you God, brother. You are God. Because if you locked up and incarcerated, this is your situation. It's not your reality. Your reality and my situation are two different. You're at two different places. So when I share that with them about your reality is divine, brother, that's in you. Of course, we made some poor choices,
but that does not put a period on our lives. And I remind them, man, come on, look at your name, Brother McGuire. Now you got this Caucasian CO, last name McGuire. Go out there and call him your brother. See if he identify with you as family. Now you're not Irish. No, of course. Then obviously somebody has captured, somebody took advantage of you. Like, yeah. And I just try to give them the name of divine. I want to be known as murder. Really, murder? You murder in the hood, but that enemy, he don't you murder your own. So that's not no real accolade, because you can take your brother who don't have nothing, you have nothing, and you end up bullying him. That don't make you no real killer, man. You're a killer of your own. So yeah, brothers, and family, this is something, identity theft, that we really, what they call that Stockholm syndrome. When we take on the identity of our capturers, yeah, man. We have their identity, we have their name, and now we have their culture. And as our lessons on, the social equality, we involved in all that now, man. So yes, sir, family. That's how I see it. Yes, man, we just got our true identity is divine, and we got to find a wonderful way to introduce our people and our younger people back to who give them their true identity, which is God, brother, and self.
Saying a real example of what our brother Kelvin was saying about using the word God. So there's a brother that's in our mosque. He was at one time one of the top 10 most wanted in the city of New Orleans by the New Orleans Police Department, right? For murders, right? And he said, he just went through a whole lot to his life. But one day he said he was at the barbershop, and another brother came into the barbershop, and every time the brother would come into the barbershop, he would be there, and the FY would go around saying, "What's up, God? What's up, God?" And he kept telling them that until one day he said, "Man, why you keep calling me God?" And when he told him, when he asked the question, just as Brother Kelvin said, when he said that, then the brother was able to begin to start explaining to him. And when you ask the brother about his journey into Islam, he points to that moment as the definition, as the definitive moment that made him want to become a Muslim.
Come on, bro. Yes, sir. Wow, man. Praise be to Allah.
Positive affirmations, keep telling a person, they soon will believe it. So again, the images are critical, and they have played a role, in the violence that we see in our community, as we was able to see during the period of the Million Man March. Brother Kelvin, you wanted to add something else?
Oh yes, brother. I'm jumping in my seat over here because, as you said, the affirmation is there. A good brother out of Atlanta, and I always give him his credit whenever I'm going to mention this product, but Dr. Chika Akua, he gave us something called the Student Creed. I took a course down in Atlanta with brother about 8 or 9 years ago, and it was this one little thing called the Student Creed that I brought back, and I met brother at a Savior's Day. Yes, I did. And that connected me to his course. But he was at Savior's Day. I believe we were in the Carolinas. That time we were at the Bojangles Arena. Remember that, brother?
And Charlotte.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Charlotte.
sir.
Yeah.
So I met brother there, I believe it was. But the point of it is this thing that we teach the students, the student creed, it leads them, if you will, right along the path of like the fruit code, right? And so the student creed sounds like this. It says, I am a student seeking to be a scholar. The standard is excellence today and tomorrow. I'm disciplined, focused, and on time. I'm organized, respectful, and responsible. I'm on a mission to elevate myself, my family, my community, and humanity. And then we say, Ashe, Ashe, Ashe. Brother, we have them memorize that, brother. You can't even operate with us if you don't know the student creed. but then it gives them something that they can operate from. It gives them a code. It gives them something that they can, as he say, move up the ladder of success. Praise be to Allah. Yes, indeed.
Allah, brother. Yes, sir.
And brother, I'm telling you, I'm so full, but we got a little more room, on the plate. So we have reached the point where we're about an hour and 16 minutes in, and I want to thank my co-host, Brother Cedric X, man, for the questions that you have posed. But at this point, Brother Cedric, do we have any questions from our social media page that we want to be able to address at this time? Are there any questions?
No, sir, not at the time. I'm going to pose in the chat again for some people to put some questions in the chat. I did it earlier, but hopefully we'll get some questions shortly.
Okay, so we just wanted to do a check-in to make sure, because we don't want to overlook, those who are listening by Facebook Live on our Facebook page, that they may have questions for each one of our panelists. And so we're just thrilled. But we do have those in the audience that are on our Zoom page. So if you have a question, you can either text myself, which I know you have my number if you want. But if you also are on as a result of the invitation from one of the panelists, you can text them and they will send that question to us. Or you can go on to our Facebook page, which is live, Muhammad's Mosque, NOI Rochester. Put your question in online, and then we will get that question so that you can get your question answered. And we're just so delighted and grateful and thankful to all of our panelists who have taken out time out of their busy schedule. But I believe, and I know you agree with this statement, that they're offering not only inspiration, but they're offering solutions that you can extract if you're working with our young people, either if that's school or if you have, church service where you got young people, or even mosques or masjids or synagogues. We may have some Jewish folk on here, because we don't discriminate. We're trying to alleviate the problem that is affecting our community. So if you have any questions, feel free to get those questions to us, or we will continue to move on, because I'm telling you, I'm really enjoying this discussion. And so I want to go back to something that Minister Willie said, regarding the youth. And my question to the panel is, what role the mosque, the church, the synagogue, the school, what role, or even recreational centers where our young people congregate, what role do these facilities have in alleviating? I may be going too far when I say alleviate, but I'm just going to keep it 100, because again, we want to combat this disease, as Brother Willie said. I like how you put that, as best as we can, because we all are affected one way or another. So what role from our panel do these facilities have in helping reduce, I'll use that term, reduce the trauma and the violence that our young people in our community is experiencing?
I mean, for us as a nation of Islam, in our lessons, when it talks about our brothers of five, we still a 5%er, when you know it verbatim, said, what is the duty of a civilized man? So we have a responsibility. We have a responsibility to deliver a clear message, right?
Right.
Let me say this, something I've learned in my Islam. Sometimes we beat ourselves to death about our people's refusal to accept the message that we're bringing to them. And we shouldn't feel, because it's not uncommon, because even Prophet Muhammad had to be reminded by Allah that, listen, are you going to cry yourself and worry yourself to death because they refuse? So we want to make sure that we can stand before Allah saying that, listen, I've shown them, I've given it to them, I was there, Allah. They have to grab it. And that goes for our children as well, right? Because oftentimes I say, like with our youth have the courage of David, where they're ready to go and take on giants, but they are blind like Samson. So the power that they actually have, Samson in his strength, because he was blind, he ended up using where he killed himself while trying to destroy his oppressor. So somebody has to give them the light. But this is the thing that we have to balance, right? I learned this watching people being attempted to being rescued during Hurricane Katrina. The National Guard person, he has taken the training. First, he signed up to be in the National Guard. He's went through the training. He's learned how to use the rescue equipment, the life preserver, the rope, or whatever. So when they go and find these people on the roof, they say, grab onto the ladder. Or they see somebody drowning, grab onto the life preserver. He has done his job. Now, if they don't grab onto the life preserver, you can't blame that on a person that's from the National Guard. And that's what our people have to do. So we want to come up with we want to exhaust ourselves, creativity, whatever, to get the message to them. But they have to grab it. Salvation is a two-way fold. When you read in the scriptures, there was something that Jesus did, but there was something also that the people who he came to save had to do, even if it was simple as believe. When he met the man that was sitting by the pool for 38 years, what did he tell him? Pick up your mat and walk. Jesus came, the solution came, but now there's an act that you have to do. We can't take the message of salvation and make it into a new welfare program where we end up enabling our people and they don't get up and realize that, no, you got something to do yourself. Even if it is accepting this teaching. Jesus told the man with the weathered hand, stick out your hand, right? So there's something to do, but we want to make sure that we are doing all that we can to get the message to them and as clear as possible. But we do have a responsibility because that's the mission that Allah gave us.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Brother Kelvin?
Yes, sir. And again, the reference to these different types of facilities and locations and their utilization in helping to save our young people in our community. Is that correct, brother?
Yes, sir. What role do they have?
You know, of course, with COVID, you know, a lot of places were shut down. And now we're starting to see places come back open. And one of the things that we have heard consistently is that, you know, the young people don't have anything to do. The young people don't have any place to go, and so on and so forth. You know, we recently spearheaded a what we call a faith walk, you know, and we had 5 consecutive faith walks in our city. And if you were to Google Hartford faith walks, you would see the video documentation. But coming together with churches and the people of good faith, the mosque and so forth, brother, we were able to bring people into the streets, and we went into the various locations where gun violence is very prevalent in our city, and you know, kind of a mini rally, if you will, social distancing, of course, but you could see the presence of the FOI and the presence of the nation there, and but we're outnumbered because the majority of the people there, as it was at the Million Man March, beloved, were Christians or just brothers and sisters who were not necessarily a part of the mosque, but they answered the call. So, what do these facilities or institutions, or how do they play a part? They can learn. They can learn to be conflict resolution centers. And it maybe if it's not the full blown training, if you will, right? They can have some aspect of it. Because usually what you see in our community is that wherever the homicide happens, the church is nearby. Wherever you see our young people being killed in some shape, form, or fashion, the church is right there.
Right.
And so what good does it do, pastor, deacon, minister, to be inside the 4 walls when our people are dying outside of those walls?
Right.
Are the doors open? Can the people come for whatever kind of help? If they don't join the church, that's fine. But can we save lives? Can we save a young brother, a young sister? I'm looking at the 30 some odd homicides that we had that we have right now in our city, and I'm saying, you know, that could have been FOI. That could have been MGT. And so I think that these facilities, whether they be rec centers, whether they be churches or mosques, or brother, the schools belong to the people. The school building should be open until 8 p.m., not closed down. And then if it's like our city, most of our teachers, quote unquote, right, they live in the suburbs. They leave that building, brother, and head right to the highway. And we don't see them again until the next day. We don't see them at all when the drama happens, when the trauma happens. But yet our tax dollars are paying for electricity, water, computers, desks, everything that's needed to help improve that community for the entire community is in that building. So I just think that's one way anyway that could happen.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Brother Ronald?
Yes, sir. You know, I remember the minister says the mosque has to be the launching pad for all activities. And it can't be just a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, the days of Saturday, where we have to bring our youth in that particular shelter and be able to, you know, work with them and, you know, be able to bring the conflict resolution and just sometimes bring them in for any type of activity, artistic endeavors, to get them to be able to showcase their talents and make them see that the mosque, they feel a sense of comfort and safety. Because sometimes, you know, they want to be in a place of shelter just to be able to relax and be able to, you know, lay their head, not, you know, be able to let their guard down, because sometimes, you know, where these things are, the conflict that's going on in the street, the mosque may be their only safe haven. You know, I remember a quote from the minister says, particularly with our people, he says, can you look beyond the faults and see the needs of your people? Or just, are you going to be the one who is always condemning them? We are the people of God. If you believe that, then treat the people like you believe they are more than what they show. Because what they show is a manifestation of their ignorance. And if you treat them evenly, you only demonstrate that you have not been raised from a dead level yourself. I think that's powerful, because the church, you know, has failed. All these other community organizations, as you know, Minister Kenneth, they got all these names on it, but they ain't out there in the street really doing the work of our people. They out there, some of the youth, they're afraid to even approach our youth and deal with some of the issues that are the real source of their anger and their frustration. So yes, I mean, you know, these organizations have failed. And I believe Allah is bringing us back in time, on time, to be able to handle that situation. But we gotta open up our doors. Like Brother Kelvin said, the school is closing. Well, we gotta have where we come. That's gotta be open. And we gotta be there, be able to be there in the right spirit and the right heart to receive our people. Thank you.
Yes, sir, Brother Ronald. Thank you for that.
You're welcome, brother.
You know, we're coming toward the end. So my final question will be, and I thank you, brothers, all for participating and giving such valuable information and energy to this panel discussion. It's so very necessary and right on time, divine and right on time. So we thank you, brothers. Would like to honor the courageous. So my question is this. Being that we're given the opportunity to reopen our mosques, and knowing, like Brother Ronald, you just stated, that we're being failed by society, by those that supposed to be for our people.
Absolutely.
That say they're for the people, but they're not putting forth the action. So when our Messiah blesses us with the opportunity to reopen, it's for a reason. So what are we going to do as individuals? What should be our plan? I mean, it's great to say by mouth, but what is the action plan to internalize and get our people to move into a steady direction into righteousness?
That's a real big question, right? That's a real big question. We can have another
2, 3, 4, 5 hours on it. But you know, one of the things is, as it was relating to the topic that we are having, I put back on the table the suggestion about how we can begin to, like, every meeting where people come in who come in for the first time, they get one of the conflict resolution cards, and then we pro. That's one way, and I think we have to begin to start thinking outside the box and pulling together. You mentioned the youth, those with fresh ideas. You know what I'm saying? To begin to start how we can use those ideas to begin to match the environment in which we are in now. You know, like we were doing. Right now. We are during COVID. We started like an online processing class, right? And what was interesting, we talked to a lot of the brothers and asked them, "How did you all become interested in Islam?" All of them pointed to Brother Ben and Brother Really Islam. And I thought it was interesting that they became influenced about Islam by two people who were not, quote unquote, over a mosque. You see what I'm saying? So it's like we got to begin to start using the tools to think about new creative ways to be able to carry out what we have been given, because the enemy does that. Yes, sir. The way that he's not deceiving people exactly the same the way that he did 15, 20, 30 years ago. It's new and improved. You see what I'm saying? So we got to constantly think about new ways and not be afraid. I'm not talking about changing the theology, you know, but, you know, sometimes we got to look at new outreach practices that we can begin to start doing. You know what I'm saying? Like, we have people in our mosque, in our study group. You have lawyers, you have doctors, you have a variety of professions. Let's just use those in our mosque, in our study groups, who are lawyers and doctors or nurses, right? What if we begin to start setting up something where you go into a neighborhood and you ask the lawyer that's in our mosque or the lawyers that's in our mosque if they can set up a table in the neighborhood we're targeting, and they would at least be for 1 or 2 hours, people can come sit at that table and get some type of limited legal guidance. Right. Or they can come in. If you got the doctors and the nurses where they can come in, they can help somebody understand what their blood pressure is for that day. They may be walking around with a headache, don't even know it's connected to their blood pressure. The more we're able to provide services, we're going to begin to start winning people over. You see what I'm saying? And to do that, we have to begin to start thinking out the box. And I kind of just feel like in some areas of what we do, it has been limited and it's still limited. That we've kind of narrowed what doing the work is. Yes, sir. Right.
Great answer, brother. Thank you. Brother Kelvin? Brother Ronald?
Yes, sir. I mean, you know, like, you know, just what Brother Willie said, that, man, we gotta have be a little bit more creative in our approach with our youth, and just basically not be narrow-minded, have peripheral vision, and how we can reach our people. Because we have to, if we're not in the community, because we're in the community, we should know the needs of our people. What are their needs? Healthcare, the legal aspect of it. Just bringing certain, you know, utilizing just people who are sitting amongst us, among the believers, and tap into them and see what they have to say and what they can add on to bring those talents that they may have to the table, so we can make it, you know, a little bit, you know, we don't have to change our theology, but be a little bit more creative and be a little bit more open for expansion or change of how we go out and fish our people in to this particular truth, what Islam has done for you. So yes, I just see the value of the outreach that has to be on a whole nother creative way, because we just can't have business as usual. Because I've had 18 months of relaxation that we have not been open, so we shouldn't be tired.
Come on, brother.
We should be well rested to go out there and address the needs. Like I said earlier, can you look beyond the faults of your people?
Yes, sir.
Because if we start to judge the people from our perceptions, that means we have not been raised from a dead level ourselves. So I want I want to change my methodology of my thinking and my approach. And lastly, when you go fishing, I mean, we gotta figure out, we gotta be more creative in what we fishing. Can't keep going to the same spot in the same pond and using the old rusty old worms and wonder why the fish ain't bite.
Come on, brother.
Like,
Yes,
man, the fish ain't bite. Because
yes,
them worms done dried up in 18 months, man. It's they crusty. Go get some, be a little bit more creative. Go get some sardine or whatever you got to get. I'm not a fisherman, but hey, use some different type of bait. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Brilliant, brilliant. Brother Kelvin is on you, sir.
Yes, sir, Brother Kelvin.
Oh, yes, sir, brother. I was on mute, brother. I wanted to read something which will kind of lay a base for my answer, if I could, brother. And as you remember, when we were going back in for the 20th anniversary, we all received a packet, right, dealing with justice or else. And a major part of that was for us to identify and develop what we call the local organizing committees. Y'all remember that?
Yes, sir.
You know, looking on Chicago's Facebook page, it says the local organizing committee are weekly meetings comprised of collaborative partnerships of local leaders, grassroots activists, youth and students, religious leaders, business persons, educators, mothers and fathers, and other volunteers who were inspired by the 20th anniversary of the Million Man March, Justice or Else, and are willing to work towards the success of the initiatives that were outlined by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And so when we received those packets, 10, 15, that was kind of the first time I even heard about like organizing. I went on to learn more because now I know that there's a difference between organizing and mobilizing.
Right.
See, a lot of times we move bodies, we move quickly to an action. That's mobilizing. Okay, everybody, we're going to be at the state capitol. That's good. But as we learn, the real work happens after the event.
Right.
This is not about the moment, it's about the movement. And so how do we create the movement? Well, some basics in organizing that I've learned since doing some study is that an organizer is doing 5 basic things, Brother Kenneth. An organizer is doing 5 basic things. Number 1, building a base, right? Building a base of individuals. What does our database look like in terms of the neighborhoods that we work in? Do we have 1,000 people in our database? Or are we just continuously selling a paper and not getting a name, not finding out, not being able to identify, right? Number 2, train the base. Train those individuals in the same knowledge that you have in terms of how to get from point A to point B on issues that are important to them. What are the local issues in that particular neighborhood? Is it the lighting? Is it violence? Is it a food desert? Is it recreation? Is it homelessness? But we train the people to be able to move the needle towards some form of win. Next, as I said, identify the issues. It is very important that the people who are directly impacted by the problem be on the forefront. Be on the forefront of solving those problems. Okay, we're going to meet every Thursday night. But where we going to meet at? Well, did you know that the mosque is coming back open on the 14th?
Right.
We got a place to meet. And we got some issues to talk about.
Yeah, exactly.
Number 3, push the base to action, right? So we've identified the issues, we've had some training. Now it's time for us to go ahead and have an action. So we're going to bring that public servant to our meeting. We're not going to him. We're going to bring him to our power base. And we're going to lay out our demands. This is what we want change in our community. This is what we want done right here. And when can you get it done? And we'll check back with you in a few weeks. And then at the same time, our base is building, right? I mean, it's one thing to hear from 10 people. It's another thing to hear from 100. All right? And then lastly, build the capacity of the organization. Build the capacity of the organization. Next thing you know, Miss Johnson, you know, yeah, she go to First Baptist, but now she coming to the mosque because she don't miss her local organizing meeting. You know she got to bring them sweet brownies that she made.
Right.
Next thing you know, she coming in, right? Assalamu alaikum.
Come on, man.
Right?
Come on, man.
Man, y'all done got Miss Johnson in the mosque, man.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Go
sir.
ahead, man.
We got it, Miss Johnson. Go ahead. Yeah.
Come on, man.
Wow.
That's right, brother. She in the front row. That's right, brother.
Yes, sir.
Praise be to Allah. So organizing is what I would put on the table, brother, as something I believe a vehicle that we're striving to do here in our city and keep it at the forefront. Yes, sir.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you, brothers. Thank you. You know, I've enjoyed thoroughly your ideas, your solutions, and I hope and pray that our listening audience was taking notes because viable solutions was offered today. And so, brothers and sisters, we have reached that point that we would like to give our panelists just 1 minute in your closing remarks. And one thing that you could offer our community, offer our young people, one thing, and what would that one thing be? You got a minute, brothers. We want to close on time.
I'll just say, accept your own and be yourself, you know. That's what I would say.
Beautiful.
I would add, brother, study, and then study some more. Advice for our young people. You know, adultism is a real thing. And we as adults, we don't know everything, nor are we without blemish. Our young people need to feel like they can come to us. Our people need to feel like they can come to us. But as you know, sometimes they think that we're on this high plateau somewhere. And it's like, no, we didn't fall down out of heaven. We rose up out of heaven. And so I think that if we can just be open and approachable, and as I heard it said, I believe Brother Willie said it, you know, it's not about how much we know, but how much we care that we should be demonstrating. And that is surely what I have learned from the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. That is the example that I strive to show the people to walk that walk as Jesus is walking. We want to walk in his footsteps. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Brother Ronald?
You know, we're taught you want for your brother what you want for yourself. And what I want for myself is love, peace, and happiness. And I want that for you as well. But I understand that, you know, I'm your brother, and I'm not here to judge you. I'm taught by Mr. Farrakhan, look beyond of your faults, and what we do, including myself, is due by our ignorance. And I'm not here to put you in a position of the mistakes you made, but all that can be overcome by the power and the help of Allah, the essence of God within self, that we can overcome these obstacles in our path. You know, you can't be a champion without having challenges. Muhammad Ali could never say, I'm the greatest fighter of all time, but he never got into the ring. You got to have an opponent. You got to have a challenge. And when you have, you know, what builds you up in any type of exercise is negative resistance. It's not what you take down off your chest. It's what you take off your chest. So the negative resistance that you have in our lives, each and every day, if we know how to balance that and be able to look at it in a perspective that I'm going to do, I can't start off bench pressing with, you might have to start off working out on the bench press with no weight on the bar. That's right. People may laugh at you. Look, he ain't got no plates on the bar. But over time, you start putting little plates on the bar, little by little, and little by little, and then you start to see you got a significant amount of weight and you gain some muscle. You can't gain that muscle, you can't gain that strength without some type of resistance. So this, even in chaos, there's positivity in chaos if we know how to perceive it correctly. Thank you.
Thank you. So at this time, I want to give way to my co-host who will take us to the next part of our program. But we would like to thank all of our listeners, whether you was listening by our Facebook Live page or you're in the Zoom audience here. We thank you. And we thank once again our panelists for taking out time out their busy schedule. So my co-host, Cedric.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And I too, we do thank you all for sharing this precious time in this dark hour that we're in. Let me go ahead and pull up our next slide. Brothers, do y'all see this on the screen?
No, sir.
Not yet. No, sir, not yet.
Give me 1 second here.
Is he listed as a host?
Yeah, he is. Let me make sure they didn't take his hosting rights. I think they took your hosting rights, brother. Because I see it on our Facebook Live page, but I don't see it on here.
Yeah, I see it. I see him as
Yeah, he's the co-host. I don't know why they would do it, but I see it on our Facebook page live.
Okay.
It's showing the video. But we wanted to show a video of the pledge that we took during the Million Man March, and we just wanted to leave that on our minds about the pledge that we took at the Million Man March. But if you having troubles with getting that up, Brother Cedric, that's fine. We can just continue to move on with our announcements.
Okay, yes, sir. Let me just try one more time, brother.
Yes, sir. Oh, there we go.
Yeah. Now, brothers, in closing, I want you to take this pledge. When I say I want you to say I, and I'll say your name. I know that there's so many names, but I want you to shout your name out so that the ancestors can hear it. Take this pledge with me. Say with me, please. I say your name. Pledge that from this day forward, I will strive to love my brother.
One moment, family. It's not showing on the screen. Give me 1 second.
It's on the screen, brother.
Right, we can see it, but the live stream is not showing for some reason. The video is not showing.
Okay, yes, sir. Charge it to our head, brothers, not our heart.
I think when you share it on Zoom at the bottom, like when you hit the share button at the bottom, there's going to be 2 little bullet points. That one that says like share, that you have to fill it in, like share with audio. See if you're doing that.
Yes,
when
sir.
You hit share, you see it right. You're going to see it right at the bottom.
Yes, sir.
Share screen.
Now, brothers, In closing, I want you to take this pledge. When I say I, now, brothers, in closing, I want you to take this pledge. When I say I want you to say I, and I'll say your name. I know that there's so many names, but I want you to shout your name out so that the ancestors can hear it. Take this pledge with me. Say with me, please. I say your name. Pledge that from this day forward, I will strive to love my brother as I love myself. I say your name. From this day forward, will strive to improve myself spiritually, morally, mentally, socially, politically, and economically for the benefit of myself, my family, and my people. I say your name. Pledge that I will strive to build business, build houses, build hospitals, build factories, and enter into international trade for the good of myself, my family, and my people. I say your name. Pledge that from this day forward, I will never raise my hand with a knife or a gun to beat, cut, or shoot any member of my family or any human being except in self-defense. I say your name. Pledge from this day forward, I will never abuse my wife by striking her, disrespecting her, for she is the mother of my children and the producer of my future. I say your name. Pledge that from this day forward, I will never engage in the abuse of children, little boys or little girls, for sexual gratification. But I will let them grow in peace to be strong men and women for the future of our people. I say your name. Will never again use the B word to describe any female, but particularly my own black sister. I say your name. Pledge from this day forward that I will not poison my body with drugs or that which is destructive to my health and my well-being. I say your name. Pledge from this day forward, I will support black newspapers, black radio, black television. I will support black artists who clean up their acts to show respect for themselves the ears of the human family. I, say your name, will do all of this. So help me God. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. That means God is great.
Right now for our closing announcements for our listening audience. Tomorrow, Sunday, November 7th, please log on to www.noi.org for a message from our good brother, student minister Daniel Muhammad, the time and the generation of the Messiah. Again, the time and the generation of the Messiah. Visit www.noi.org. Also, come right back here to our Facebook page, Muhammad Study Group Facebook page. It will be live streaming the message as well. That's going to be 11 a.m. Eastern Time. And if you have not done so as of yet, go on to digital.finalcall.com so you can get this divine salvation, this divine food on a monthly basis, on a weekly basis. Get your final call. The final call has gone digital, unbought and uncompromised. The final call delivers hard-hitting national and international headlines and perspective. Stay up to date in the comfort of your own home by subscribing today. And if you're in the neighborhood of our respective cities, get in contact with your brothers. We door to door. We on corners. We in neighborhoods. Get your final call, family. This information is divinely guided and necessary in this hour. And if you're not hip, I would advise you to turn off your regular radio station and tune into Final Call Radio, streaming in 97 countries around the world, 24 hours per day and 7 days a week. Final Call Radio, you get divine guidance and information from our Messiah and our midst today, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. So if you're in Rochester playing 105.5 or 103.9, I advise you to turn that dial down and turn this dial up. Download the app, Google Play Store or your Apple Store today.
That's right.
Squash the beef to keep the peace. This is our conflict resolution hotline. Call this number today, family. Store it in your phones, 585-484-1993. And we'll be glad to intervene and assist in any issue that may be arising with you or your family, friends, so on and so forth. Squash the beef to keep the peace. It's time, family. We have to unify. Just as else, we have to be the ones that intervene in these societies today, be the peacemakers for our families. And again, another visual, stop the beef. We must stop the killing. It has to end with us. And of course, join the Nation of Islam. Come on home. Accept your own and be yourself. Come on home. Visit NOIRochester.org. For our respective cities abroad, go on to NOI.org/join. Today is the time, family. Come on home.
Right.
Come on home to the truth. That will conclude the announcements. One more thing, I will say this. In the coming weeks, we'll say 2 weeks from now, put a safeguard on it. But Solution Separation 1090 is back in full effect. As you heard our beloved brother sharing divine solutions. And see, that's the key. Solutions, Separation 1090. We have to provide solutions and put into action the plans to change our ways, change our world, and change our way of thinking. And again, on behalf of myself and Brother Kenneth, I just want to say thank you to the brothers again, Brother Student Minister Willie, Brother Student Minister Kelvin, and my good brother Ronald Muhammad. It's been a pleasure. Brother Kenneth.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. And thank you once again. I would like to read a scripture from 2 Chronicles, the 7th chapter, the 14th verse. It says, if my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn